There was a woman, let's call her Laura, who had always been a dreamer. Since she was a child, she had this vision in her heart, a seed of greatness that she couldn't shake. She imagined herself doing big things, creating things that would change the world. Sometimes, in the quiet moments, she would daydream about it. The light in her eyes would flicker with excitement, and she could feel the energy of that dream vibrating inside of her chest. But over the years, something began to happen. The world, with all of its noise and demands, had worn her down. She found herself giving and giving and giving until her well ran dry. She gave to friends, to family, to strangers, to causes she believed in, to everyone but herself. And the more she gave, the more exhausted she became. She felt empty, like a battery that can no longer charge. And yet, she kept pushing herself to do more, be more, show up more. One day, she sat alone in her apartment. She began to feel it, the unmistakable pull of something shifting deep within her. It was subtle at first, like a quiet whisper in her ear, urging her to stop, to pause, to listen. Laura didn't know it then, but she had arrived at a crossroad. At the time, she didn't have the language for it, but looking back, she understands now that she was being called to replenish herself, to pull back and rest. For months, she had been in a silent war with herself, feeling guilty for not giving as much, feeling like a failure when she wasn't constantly moving forward. She had been running on autopilot, thinking that if she just kept pushing, kept trying, she'd get closer to her dreams. But what she didn't realize was that her constant overdoing and constant overgiving was draining her, leaving her without the energy to manifest anything of real value. So one day, she made a decision, a small but monumental one. She decided to stop. She began pulling back, not in anger or fear, but out of love for herself. She started to set boundaries, firm ones. When people asked for her time or energy, she began saying no. At first, the guilt was overwhelming. It felt wrong, like she was betraying her generous nature. But there was something deep within her that knew that it was the right choice. In those quiet moments, when she wasn't being pulled in a million different directions, she could feel herself starting to breathe again. There was peace in the stillness, even though it felt unfamiliar. It was as though the entire universe was giving her permission to rest, to pause, to heal. And that's when something miraculous happened. Slowly, her energy began to return. She felt the subtle but unmistakable stirring of growth beneath the surface, like a seed buried deep in the earth. She couldn't see the changes happening within her, but she could sense them. She could feel her soul getting stronger, more resilient, more in tune with the quiet hum of her own power. Laura began to understand something that changed her life forever. She wasn't meant to be in a constant state of doing.